is 100 years worth of men's fragrance, and I'm about to test them all to see which decade of men smelled the best. I've got men's fragrances from every decade from the 1920s to the 2020s, and trust me, some of these fragrances are just as wild as their era. Over the past 100 years, men's fragrances have gone from basic splash of citrus and musk to complex ingredients and smells that can truly determine a man's style. But the question is, who smelled better, you or Granny? So, if you're ready to discover what made men so irresistible in every decade, keep watching because I'm about to blow your mind. Starting with the Roaring 20s. The Roaring 20s were all about jazz, flapper dresses, and indulgent parties. It was the era of the Great Gatsby, where everything was extravagant and larger than life. From the Roaring 20s, we have 4711, and often referred to as one of the world's oldest fragrances. This is a true vintage bottle all the way from the 1920s. The MSRP for this fragrance was likely less than $1. I paid $34. Now, 4711 has been around since the 1700s, but it really dominated the 1920s. With 4711, think citrus, lavender, and classic freshness. And this one was likely worn by everyone from dapper businessmen to stylish partygoers. Now, if you're not familiar with 4711, you may be familiar with Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino, and I would say that this one here is likely the inspiration behind that scent. Whoa. This smells ancient. It's definitely strong. This one's clean, it's refreshing, but it doesn't pack that modern punch that we get from 4711 today. This one has more of that gravitas all about it. It's a timeless classic, obviously, that sounds like you're stepping back into a jazz club, and personally, I still hate it. Next, the 1930s. The 1930s were rough, and the crash of the stock market left people feeling frugal and resourceful, but people still found a way to enjoy those simple luxuries like, well, fragrance. From bourgeois, we have Mais Oui Eau de Cologne, and I'm sure I probably butchered that name, so maybe this thing is excellent. Now, the average cologne back in the 1930s was around $2, and I paid $37, and that's 18.5 times more expensive than the original. Now I'm depressed. Now, it's interesting to see that each of these, that one from the 1920s and the 1930s, both had this little stopper in it to stop your fragrances from pouring out. I guess that's what happens when you have a dapper scent. Ooh, okay. This is strong, and it is quite strong. I would imagine that if it wasn't as concentrated as it is, it would probably come off as light and refreshing, but no, this one's pungent and it's heavy floral, but you also get this powdery softness to it as well. Despite how it smells right now, I believe that comparatively speaking, probably to other 1930s fragrances, this one would have likely been more on the subtle side of things. And despite my disdain, this one could be seen as elegant and or understated. It's loud, but it's perfect for those times when you didn't want to be too loud. Now, compared to likely competitors during that time frame, I would say that this is a fragrance that whispers instead of shouts, and despite that, I would say that I feel like I just grew a few more pieces of hair on my chest. Now, the 1940s were the war years. It's said that fragrance was less about attraction during this time frame and more about that familiar comfort that you might have been seeking. This thing is tiny. This is Yolanda Schiffer from Genesis Trading Co., and this is 1/4 of a fluid ounce. I didn't realize this bottle was so small when I picked it up. It's almost like a toy. Now, Schiffer fragrances became popular because of their woody and mossy notes, and during this time frame, they really were like this staple of resilience. So let's see if I can open this thing up and see what we get here. Can we crack the code? So clearly, no one has ever opened this one, or it's rusted shut. But let's see if this fragrance is worth anything. I mean, it's obviously worth something because I paid for it, but I'm not sure. So far, I haven't loved anything. It's not bad. It's not bad. Let me put this one on skin. It's kind of good. This is pretty good. So far, this one is the best. Now, I'm getting some citrus in this fragrance. I am also getting some woody aspects in here and a hint of greenness as well. So it's likely some oak moss and musk for what this time frame was. This one feels strong and it feels like something a man should wear, and I can envision a soldier wearing this one when he's returning home back around the family. He wants to feel like he's at peace and having comfort. Overall, it's not a bad scent, and so far, this one is our winner. Not that there's anything to win, but if there was, so far, this one's in the lead. Now, the average price for fragrances back in the 1940s was around $5, and I paid $43.30 for this scent, and this is a fourth of a cent, so I got hosed. Next, we got the 1950s, and this was the golden era. You see, post-war America was booming. You had rock and roll, diners, and of course, you had that Hollywood glamour. People wanted to live large and, of course, smell great. It took me a ton of time to find all of these fragrances because I wanted to get each of these fragrances directly from the decade that they were supposed to be in. I didn't want formulas of these from the 2020s. Nope, I needed the real deal. And this one is about as real as they come. This one's called Red Sails, and it retailed for a regular price of $1.50. But it looks like there was also a sale on it for 98 cents. I paid $47.63. This is men's spray cologne and the first spray that we've seen so far. Nothing descriptive on the box to let me know. Oh my goodness, that's a different. Whoa! I don't know what this is, but it's terrible and I cannot smell it again. Sheesh, I'm putting my life at risk. Gotta get through it, gotta get through it. Oh, that's horrendous. In the box you go, little buddy. This smelled like a mix of lighter fluid and a whole bunch of other things that smelled horrendous. It's a hard pass for me. Unfortunately, all I can say about the 1950s is never again. Now, the swinging 60s was all about bold statements, and we'll see if this fragrance is as bold as its era. I just took a shower before filming this video, and I feel like I'm gonna need another. People are sending these fragrances with all types of hair and dogs. It is disgusting. The things I do for my people. Whoa, I can smell this through the package and it doesn't smell promising. Now, the swinging 60s were all about rebellion, the Beatles, and counterculture. People started to think outside of the box, and it looks like so did the fragrances. Now, despite what this looks like, this is Old Balenciaga by, well, Balenciaga, and it leaked all over the place. The smell is strong. It's strong. It is very, very strong. If I don't make it, just know, be gang for life. So the MSRP for this fragrance when it released was just around 15 bucks. I paid $46.93, and as you can see, it's really just for a corner of the bottle. If this fragrance was still around and a full bottle, this one would have been well over $200, and I've seen some going for upwards of $500. I don't feel like I need to actually dap this one because of how much it's leaked. However, if I don't, I feel like someone out there is gonna say something, so let me get down to business. Now, Old Balenciaga is potent, and it just makes you want to scream, Balenciaga! It's a masculine, unapologetic fragrance that just screams for attention. Personally, I don't know how this fragrance was stored. It's a mix of wood, florals, and a slight smidge of citrus here as well. Something about this fragrance also feels like it should be grungy and gritty, but it still has a sophisticated edge to it. And I don't think I would be turning my nose up as much if it didn't leak, because this one is strong. Much stronger in the air than it is on paper. On paper, it's semi-enjoyable, but if you leaked as much as this have, then you might be reeking. So be sure, I'm not sure if you're gonna go out and actively look for this fragrance, but if you did, Old Balenciaga is okay. Moving forward to the 1970s, and we got the disco era. Listen, the 70s were home to disco fever, bell bottoms, and Saturday night fever. And I'm sure, depending on what rooms you went into, it might not have been uncommon to smell a little patchouli in the air. Well, I can already tell you that the fragrance that we got here was Aspen colognes, and this one came from the Drug Emporium? I don't know. 2-ounce bottle, see what it's all about. Ooh, it's crusty around the top. All right. This one is pretty good. Oh yeah, this is by far the best we've smelled. It almost has a green Irish tweed type of feel. This one's pine and forest greens. It's fresh, it's rugged, and it captured that outdoorsy masculine vibe that you would expect back then outside of the disco. As you might expect, this is by far the most modern style fragrance that we've smelled so far, and I'm truly enjoying this one. This is one that I would get away with wearing. In fact, since I've already contaminated one side of my skin, I might as well do the other. It's pretty good, pretty good. With this one, think hiking, campy, and a woodsy adventure. Of course, with a side of disco, but all in, this is a fragrance that I feel really represents, probably doesn't represent the 70s at all. For this chance, it will. Aspen Cologne, you are the winner. Hang tight, because the 1980s were all about excess, and their colognes were no different. The 1980s were the decade of excess, and we're about to open this thing up and see if we get anything a bit excessive. Now, I was born in the late 80s, and there's not much that I can remember from back then. In fact, I can't remember anything from back then. However, we're gonna see if this fragrance pulls anything into the mix. I wonder if this thing has been opened. Now, I'm really going with the integrity of these sellers here that listed when these fragrances were actually made, and hopefully none of them lied. This is from Avon, and this one's called Trailblazer. The back of this bottle says the Trailblazer is for the man who lives life as a grand exploration. Hopefully, this fragrance allows us to find something good about it. This one is another dapper. The only spray that we had was terrible. So we'll see how this one is. Now, if you remember anything about Avon, Avon ladies used to go door to door selling cosmetic and beauty products, and they eventually got into some men's stuff, and fragrance, well, that's a natural progression. Originally, this bottle was $10. I paid $21.76. This one's pretty good. It's not what I was expecting, but it is pretty good. I would imagine that if you put a decent amount of this on, that this one would come off to be a little strong, which I think was pretty expected during that time frame. It's spicy, it's musky, and this one has a bit of attitude, but it has this attitude about it that actually smells good. It's like someone who's a little direct in what they do, but they know what they're talking about, so you allow them to go forward. Personally, in smelling this fragrance, I would think that this is one that you would wear when you want to make a statement, no matter if you're in the business office trying to close on a strong deal, or on the dance floor trying to show off your smooth moves. This is a scent that would kind of go with each of those situations. I like it, nothing to complain about. This one is the 80s in a bottle. Next, we got the 1990s, and some refer to the 90s as the grunge era. Packing peanuts and hair. I don't want hair and I don't want packing peanuts, but yet you give me both. Or maybe if everyone else put as much care into wrapping their packages as this person did, then it wouldn't have leaked. Now, the 1990s were grunge, boy bands, and an obsession with simplicity. People wanted things that were laid back, like flannel shirts and their Nirvana CDs. This one happens to be Stetsons by Cody, and I thought this was a new bottle, but they wrapped it, unless they took it out and wrapped it up just for that extra push to make sure that it arrived safely. My lungs are on fire, and I'm not sure which of these fragrances have done it. Hopefully I make it. This fragrance was originally $15. I paid $47.73. And I think you can probably get like a new bottle of this for less than that. So the commitment is real. It is almost medicinal in nature. It almost has like this cough syrup vibe to it, but it's clearly not meant to be a cough syrup scent. And my nose and my throat are just getting weaker and weaker. This one's warm, it's leathery in nature, and it almost has like what you would imagine a cowboy would smell like. While it's rugged, but it still remains to be a comfort-filled scent. It's like your dad was on a ranch or something. I don't know. That's how I have to explain it. Now, I don't think Stetson is new to many, but this was like a classic fragrance and a fragrance that a lot of people wore back in the 90s. It says that it's comfortable and easy to wear. It's a real American cologne. Stetson fits. So listen, that's what they have. If they like it, I love it, but I wouldn't wear any more of it. To somebody, this fragrance was everything. And to me, it doesn't deserve anything. It is not a winner in today's book. Let's just put it that way. Look, we're getting closer to the modern era with the 2000s, and the 2000s made its entry into that decade with a big up and down. In case you didn't know, the 2000s were like a whirlwind, and everything kicked off with the Y2K fiasco. And if you remember, it was like the Mayan calendar was coming to an end, and I think that was the case, and all the computers were set to go, and no one knew if it was going to switch over to 2000 or would it go all back to zeros on the clock. But it didn't. Well, not fully. There were some people's clocks who did go back to that time frame. The government put a lot of work into changing that. Government, investors, etc. I know, look it up. Now, in addition to Y2K, the 2000s were known for everyone wearing white t-shirts and throwback jerseys. This is likely the first clean fragrance that we picked up so far. And I happened to order this one from my friends over at Max Aroma. You know what you're thinking, this is a sponsor. It's not. Now, this is Givenchy Pour Homme, and this is the red top. There's also a blue top, and personally, I don't remember what either of these smell like, so let's get down to it. Okay. This is smooth. It's a lot smoother than anything else we smelled so far. It's bright citrus, plus it has a touch of spice, and it just meshes together really well. It's not a bold, aggressive in your face. This one's more laid back, more reserved. This fragrance seems like it was about smelling fresh and confident, no matter if you were on MySpace or you were out and about in the club. Overall, I think that this is a decent scent. There's some cedarwood here. It has a classy feel to this scent, and one that I would recommend people get into if they were looking for something for office wear, daily wear, just something to really just wear and feel good about yourself overall. Now, when this fragrance launched, it was about $100. I paid $48.25 for Max Aroma, so this one is a dub. Moving on to the 2010s, we have the rise of the social media era, and along with that, some great fragrances, I guess. During the 2010s, we saw the rise of Facebook. They hit 1 billion users. Instagram and Snapchat came to life. Also, influencers began to hit the scene, so the social media effect was alive and well. Now, also what I'll say for the 2010s is that fragrances begin to get a bit more experimental as well. They begin to rise a bit more. Tons of money were getting spent on those, and people wanted to try something different, and this fragrance was different. Now, from Margiela, we got Wicked Love, and when this fragrance released, it was about 130 bucks. I paid $100, so reverse inflation? Why not pick up a Margiela fragrance? I am still kind of trying to craft my entire Margiela collection where I have everything that I've ever wanted from them, and I wanted all of their gender anonymous or parfum fragrances, so I had to pick this one up. And this was an epic excuse to do so. So let's see what it smells like. Now, in spraying this fragrance, I would say compared to most Margiela fragrances that this one's dark, it's edgy, and a bit unexpected. If you are into making a statement with your fragrance, then this is one of those fragrances that will do just that. Thinking back in the day to when Instagram was just a picture platform, and even today, when you're seeing pictures of people's carousels, this one feels a bit moody. On the first spray, you get a lot of that rose that you are expected to get in this fragrance, and then it has this metallic-y feel to it, but it's a very different scent. It's supposed to be one of gunmetal and roses, which makes love wickedly dangerous. Not bad. Happy to have it. And boom, we are here back into the future with the new Roaring 20s. Now, the new Roaring 20s are like a nod to the past with a futuristic twist. We're obsessed with nostalgia these days, but we're also obsessed with innovation. And speaking of innovation, from Tumi, we have a fragrance called 19 Degree. And I'm not sure it's supposed to be 19th degree or 19 degrees, but there's no S, so it's 19 Degree. And I'm not sure what that means. I'm sure it means something. Now, I can tell you this fragrance does feel quite heavy, and Tumi is known for doing quality stuff, specifically in the backpack space, specifically in the leather goods space, and also inside of the luggage space. But fragrance could be a new thing. Now, speaking of innovation, I've never opened this fragrance before, and it says, rotate dial right to unlock cap. So that's something different. Ooh, okay. So we can take it around and know it's not gonna spill or spray. It's decent, I like that. Tumi, let's see what you got. Are you as good in the fragrance space as you are in the other spaces? All right, decent atomizer. This is good. Slightly spicy, but it's light. Kind of airy with it as well. We smell some spicy fragrances over the past few decades, but with this one, the 2020s are in the lead for sure. Now, I think it's interesting that I say that because it may have been different if we were living in that time frame, but this come off as too girly or too dainty, and the other ones be strong and masculine. I guess we'll never know. To me, 19 Degree comes off as something that's sophisticated and versatile. I can see a wide range of places where someone would opt to wear this fragrance, and for me, this is one that I'm gonna add into the rotation. Now, let me be clear here. I don't feel like this is anything groundbreaking or revolutionary, but compared to what torture my nose just went through for the past hour and a half, I'm gonna say that this one is a clear winner. So fellas, rest assured, you smell better than your grandpa. I guarantee it. If you like this video of me exploring fragrances from all the decades, then click here to see what happened when I picked up all the fragrances from Temu.